Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. Do I need a pen?
So,
Oh, God.
I don't think you need a pen, and I'm going to ignore that rudeness. That was not necessary, ma'am.
It was necessary.
So, I don't think you need a pen, but I'm going to tell you about a serial killer.
Oh, okay. Well, can we start where we are so I can get my head there?
So, today I'm going to tell you about a place
I thought we were talking about a person.
where the first ever ice cream cone machine was patented here in 1904. In 1986, this place tried to set a world record by releasing 1.5 million balloons.
Oklahoma.
But bad weather pushed them back down, interfering with rescue efforts for two missing fishermen, both of whom were found dead later.
Oh, but Maine.
It's considered one of the most haunted states in America.
Massachusetts.
Fine, I'll give you a hint, a big hint. The state bird is the northern cardinal.
You're such a dick. Anybody else who doesn't know, that's like every state's bird. Virginia.
So today we'll be in Cleveland, Ohio.
Man, I guessed Ohio that one time it was Oklahoma, and I guess Oklahoma when it was Ohio.
Sure did.
Fuck both those states. Add it to my list. Jot that down.
No, you're too quick to add stuff to your list. I veto that.
What?
But anyway.
The only one who has veto power on that. Well, I don't know if that's even Dave. It's me!
No, because someday we'll hit it real big and we'll travel to the U.S.
I can tell you, Andrew, if we hit it big, we're not going, let's go to Ohio. No offense to Ohio.
You don't know where they might want us to come do live podcasts somewhere.
Oh, well, definitely not. Who does live anything in Ohio? Except for cops.
Comedians.
Anyway, so we're headed to Oklahoma.
No, we're headed to Ohio.
Just fucking with you. Okay, what year are we going?
We're going to be the early 2000s. And we're going to be in a neighborhood called Mount Pleasant. And Mount Pleasant was anything but pleasant.
So the name is ironic.
Compared to many other parts in Ohio, you almost made me say Oklahoma. In the late 1990s through the early 2000s, Mount Pleasant was one of the city's most economically distressed areas. They had high unemployment, low incomes, and widespread foreclosures.
So nothing's changed.
And it led to many vacant, rundown homes. Drug trafficking, especially cocaine, fueled crime and addiction and domestic violence. Police presence was considered inconsistent and often seen as neglectful by residents.
So I'm pretty sure Ohio still has a drug problem.
Sure does. But residents became desensitized to hearing very loud arguments, smelling strange odors, and seeing unfamiliar people come and go from certain homes.
No.
They developed a mind-your-own-business mentality.
Snitches get stitches.
Pretty much.
But you know what? I can not say I understand like any burning plastic smells of like being immune to that. But if you're going to tell me nobody noticed the smell of a corpse, I call bullshit.
I didn't say smell of corpse, just I'm sure there was like urine, trash, just gross, stuff like that.
Oh.
Just gross smells. But anyway, that gives you kind of an idea of the neighborhood we're going to be talking about. And we're just going to jump in with 37-year-old LaTundra Billups. Her story is one of unimaginable terror. On July 28th, 2009, she found herself in the home of an acquaintance. She'd crossed paths with this feller and exchanged hellos and normal pleasantries. He was a man whose quiet, soft-spoken exterior masked a deadly darkness. What started as a casual visit quickly turned into a nightmare. He lured her into his home with the promise of sharing drugs. Once inside, he became violently aggressive. He forced her to the floor, restraining her, strangling her until she lost consciousness. This was not just an attack, it was a calculated method of terror and control. For the next 8 terrifying hours, he subjected LaTundra to multiple acts of sexual violence. She was forced into her vaginal and anal penetration against her will. The assaults were brutal and degrading, accompanied by threats and physical violence. Despite overwhelming fear and pain, LaTundra's courage never faltered. This feller strangled her repeatedly, choking her until she would lose consciousness. Each time she awoke, she gathered every ounce of her strength and courage to endure this brutal assault, hoping for an opportunity to escape. and her chance for freedom came when her attacker's grip momentarily loosened while he was trying to crush her throat with his hands.
Ooh.
She seized that moment, breaking free from his hold and fleeing his house as fast as she could. Luckily, her attacker did not pursue her, most likely because he did not expect she would survive. LaTundra was not just bruised or battered, she was fighting for her very life. This friendly, quiet man had viciously strangled her, violently cutting off the air and blood flow to her brain multiple times. This level of violence caused devastating damage. It caused swelling in her throat, bruising, and even loss of brain function due to oxygen deprivation. She immediately sought help from neighbors who got her to the hospital. Her body needed urgent care to restore her breathing and protect her brain from lasting harm. The medical team worked quickly to stabilize her, knowing that any delay could have turned a narrow escape into a tragic death. Doctors who treated LaTundra were alarmed at the severity of her injuries. They feared she would not survive. She had sustained severe head injuries, broken ribs, among other traumas she endured. She had required immediate surgery to repair the internal injuries from her brutal assault, including damage caused by the multiple strangulations. A side note, strangulation is one of the most dangerous forms of assault, and repeated choking can easily become fatal. LaTundra was hospitalized for about a week after her attack. The fact that she made it out alive is a testament to her incredible resilience.
Does she wake up during that point, or she's just conked out for that week?
No, she was awake. And she didn't just survive, she became a vital piece of the puzzle that brought a serial killer to justice. Eventually.
Ooh.
LaTundra told police almost immediately after she escaped that a man named Anthony Sowell was the person who attacked her. She was able to give his name, a physical description, and his address while still at the hospital on the day that she escaped. So it's not like there was even a delay. This prompt identification was a key factor in obtaining a search warrant for his home. The police served the search warrant for Anthony Sowell's home. 2 days later, on July 30th, 2009, the police went to arrest him and search the property, but he wasn't home. So they just executed the search warrant and they go into his house. But they didn't conduct a full forensic search. They just kind of poked around, and they said they didn't find enough evidence at the time to justify keeping the warrant active. And because the case didn't have an immediate follow-up, the warrant went inactive, and police didn't return until months later.
What the hell?
Right. Now, who is Anthony Sowell? Let's rewind back. All the way back to the beginning.
His birth?
Anthony Sowell was actually Anthony Sowell Jr. He was born in East Cleveland, Ohio on August 19th, 1959. He grew up in a cramped 1,000-foot, run-down 3-bedroom home on Page Avenue with his abusive mother, Claudia Gertrude Garrison, and his father, Anthony Sowell Sr. Anthony was the 6th child born into this family, with a younger sister being born after him.
They're all living in 1,000 square feet?
Right?
My God.
And then he had a younger sister born after him, so that made 7 children in the small house. There was a lot of stress with a cramped household.
No shit.
Partially due to the harsh discipline and dysfunction within the family.
No. That was not.
His mom was abusive. There was a lot of messed up stuff going on in this house. And the house was filled with chaos and...
Because it's close quarters and a hostile lady smacking everybody.
Right.
And you can't exactly avoid her because you can look across the whole house.
Right. And also, with 7 children, very young children, they were financially strapped. It was not a happy home. And if this wasn't enough, there were also infidelity issues within the marriage.
Hopefully not with the children.
According to family reports and some testimony, while Anthony Jr. and his 2 sisters were believed to be fathered by Anthony Sr., the paternity of the oldest sister, as well as the 4th and 5th and youngest sisters, it's all uncertain and may have involved different fathers.
Ugh.
Yeah. So when Anthony was around...
When does his dad pack his bags?
So he packs his bags when Anthony's around 4 or 5. His father divorced Claudia and then disappeared from the large family's life. After Anthony's parents divorced, his father, Anthony Sowell Sr., married a woman named Sandra. Sandra would not play a significant role in Anthony's life until his adult years. And I do mention that because it will play a factor later, briefly.
Okay, got it. He's got daddy issues and he's about to have stepmom issues.
No, she just gives him a place to live. When Anthony was around 13 or 14, his oldest sister, Patricia, was very sick. She suffered from sickle cell anemia, which is a hereditary blood disorder that can cause severe pain, fatigue, and other serious health complications. In the early 1970s, tragedy struck when Patricia passed away unexpectedly. She was around 24 years old and a single mother to 4 young children, ranging from infants to toddler.
What?
What?
Oh, four young children?
She had 4 kids. Their ages ranged from a newborn to toddlers.
For whatever reason, I heard 4, and I was thinking 7, and I was like, how are they ranged from newborn to a toddler?
No, Patricia's mom has 7. Well, now she's got 6 because Patricia passed. But Patricia's 4 children were fathered by 2 different men. The fathers of Patricia's children did not take custody of their kids after her death, leaving their grandmother Claudia to bring them into her already cramped, abusive home with her other 6 children. Anthony, like I said, was around 13 when all this occurred. His mother became even more financially strapped and abusive. She was at her wit's end raising 10 children alone. You figure at the time of her taking in her grandchildren, her youngest children were teens and a preteen, and now she's back to dealing with diapers for 3 out of 4 grandchildren, plus grieving the death of her daughter.
What's his mom's name?
Claudia.
He had just said something about Patricia.
Patricia is his sister who died.
Oh, so Patricia
died.
So what's the stepmom's name?
Sandra.
Yeah, I thought her name was Patricia. That's where I was confused.
Nope,
Got it.
Patricia's the sister.
Claudia's sister croaked, and she gets the kids.
No.
What?
No. Patricia is Claudia's daughter. It's Anthony's oldest sister.
Oh, and she had kids, so he's about to live with his nieces and nephews?
Correct.
Got it.
So Claudia just brought in 4 of her grandchildren.
What'd she die of?
I don't know. I'm guessing it was complications with her sickle cell anemia.
Got it.
It just says she died unexpectedly. So
okay.
But his mother, she's now raising 10 children.
Ugh. What is she doing for work?
So I tried to look that up because I was curious if there was some selling of her body going on.
She was a lady of the evening.
So everything that I read says that she did odd jobs and cleaned houses. So
all right.
I'm not.
Who's watching the kids during that?
So Anthony's mother, she continued her harsh and abusive treatment towards her children as well as her grandchildren. Her house was a place where physical punishment and neglect were too common. And about 3 or 4 years of living as a very, very large family in this tiny house, Anthony sexually abused his niece, who was only 9 years old.
How old was he?
16.
Ugh.
If that isn't terrible enough, there's reports that the other children within this toxic household were also sexually abused by other relatives.
Yeah, I was going to say, I bet he learned that from somewhere.
So when Anthony was around 16 or 17, he dropped out of high school, which I found very sad because I feel like he was just screwed from the start.
Yeah. By a relative.
You're gross. He continued to live in the violent household, working low-skilled, low-paying jobs, and around this time, Anthony began drinking alcohol. I think he was realizing how difficult his life was going to be and fell into a bit of a spiraling depression or funk.
I don't think he has that at all. I think he realized his life is difficult. This is his life.
Right. He was having behavioral issues. He wasn't going to school, so he was failing. And he was like, you know what? Hell with this shit. I quit. I'm just going to go get a job. And then when he realized without a high school diploma, he's really just struggling. And then when he was making money, his mom's taking it all. So he was just like, man, this shit sucks. And then he turned to alcohol. So I think it was more, his life sucks. And as soon as he turned 18 in 1978, he joined the Marine Corps as his way out of the cycle of violence and poverty his family was trapped in. During his time in the Marines, Anthony trained as an electrician and a wireman. He would be stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina, Okinawa, Japan, and Cherry Point, North Carolina. He would serve 7 years with no major disciplinary issues reported. There's no report of combat either, or any sort of combat-related trauma. So that does not play into a factor with what his later crimes become. In 1985, after fulfilling his contract, Anthony was honorably discharged from the Marines. At this point in his life, rather than finding a fresh start, he decided to return home to his mother's overcrowded, troubled household.
You'd think he would just stick with the military.
You would have thought. Especially because he seemed to be thriving.
Yeah, there's nothing for you there.
But sadly, nothing had changed within the home except more babies were brought into the house.
My God. So she runs a daycare.
No, because in daycare, kids actually get taken care of. The structure and discipline of the military life gave way to an increasingly chaotic existence. Returning to this toxic world meant falling back into old patterns of instability. In the years following his return to Cleveland, Anthony struggled to find steady employment. Anthony began abusing alcohol and cocaine now. Neighbors described him as moody and unpredictable, often keeping to himself but sometimes showing aggression.
He was probably hangry, but he's just feeding himself some powders and liquids that he shouldn't be.
Pretty much. And then in February 1989, about 4 years after returning to Cleveland, he's roughly 30 years old, Anthony's violent tendencies escalated. He lured a 21-year-old woman who was 6 months pregnant into his home by offering her a ride and promising help. Somehow, no one else was home during this time. But once inside, he restrained her and sexually assaulted her multiple times. Fortunately, she managed to escape through a window, providing critical testimony that led to his arrest. Anthony was charged with kidnapping, rape, and attempted rape. He pled guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison. During his incarceration, Anthony maintained an uneventful record with no major disciplinary issues. He really does good with structure, is what I noted.
He does good around a bunch of other dudes.
Well, I think it's the structure of the prison, the structure of the military. He needs structure.
I think it's also being around a bunch of dudes. He's got problems with the ladies because his mom smacked him a lot.
Maybe. I mean, he didn't even just sit around and wait for his 15 years to be up. Anthony earned his GED while in prison, and he even completed vocational training related to the electrical work, building on his skills that he had learned during his time in the Marines. So he was trying to better himself while in prison. That brings us to his release date, which was May 2005. He was classified as a Tier 3 sex offender. This classification meant he was required to register as a sex offender for life and submit to frequent law enforcement check-ins. And a brief side note, because when it said he was a Tier 3, I was like, Tier 3? What's 1 and 2? So Tier 1 is considered low risk. It typically includes less severe offenses such as possession of child pornography without direct contact. The registration period for that is usually around 15 years, and they have to update the registration annually, and there's no community notification. Tier 2 is considered a moderate risk. That often includes direct contact without aggravating factors like force or minors. And their registration period for those Tier 2 fellers or ladies are usually 25 years. Registration requirements are updated every 6 months, and they have limited community notification. So I take that as direct neighbors. And then you've got what Anthony is, which is Tier 3, which is considered a high risk. It includes violent sex offenders, offenses against minors, repeat offenders, or cases with aggravating factors. Their registration period is for a lifetime, and they require frequent updates, either quarterly or monthly, and then it requires full community notification, which I thought was interesting. Upon his release, Anthony could no longer return to his mother Claudia's troubled household due to his Tier 3 status.
Oh. Is it because they were near a school?
It's because there's so many children in the house.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, he moved into a house owned by his stepmother, Sandra. It was located in another part of Mount Pleasant, but this area was closer to the industrial sites, like a nearby sausage factory.
The irony is not lost on me.
It also faced challenges with abandoned buildings and crime, but Sandra's home was less chaotic since
there aren't 5 million children in a 1,000 square foot house.
Right. From what I read, there were people that would stay there. Sandra lived there at one point, but she moved out. Also, I thought it was interesting that she let Anthony move in there because at this point, Anthony Sr. had divorced her and moved on. From what I saw, Sandra and Anthony Sr. did not have any children together. So Sandra let Anthony stay there, Anthony Jr., out of the goodness of her heart.
Truly out of the kindness of you.
Yeah, she was just a nice lady.
She had no loyalty. Yeah, she didn't have to do anything.
Right. So that's why I say she deserves the recognition of she tried to do right by this kid who's now an adult, who's a piece of shit.
And he's already a rotten apple.
Right. But she was trying to help him out. The neighbors described Sandra's house at 12205 Imperial Avenue as cluttered and unkept. It sat right next door to Ray's Sausage, a family-owned business that had been part of the neighborhood for decades. Over time, an overpowering stench began to drift through the block. It was described sharp and sour on hot days. It would cling to your clothes, and it would turn people's stomachs.
Ew.
Many were convinced it came from the sausage factory. Some compared it to spoiled meat. Others feared it was something far worse. Complaints were filed, gossip spread, and the factory owners were eager to clear their name. They went through and over time, they had replaced sewer lines. They would bleach their drains regularly. They scrubbed every inch of their facility. They even changed out refrigerators and storage containers.
It's not us, we promise.
But the smell...
That fart came from someone else.
Well, the odor still lingered. To the neighborhood, it was an unpleasant mystery, the kind that you blame on poor ventilation and just left it at that.
I wouldn't live there. Like, okay, things have started to get stinky.
All right.
Everybody in that village are stinky. Maybe they went nose blind, unless it was a real hot day.
Yeah. For the next 3 years, Anthony's life appeared quiet on the surface. He continued to work low-wage, informal jobs and struggled to maintain steady employment. Neighbors saw him as withdrawn and moody, sometimes showing unsettling aggression. During this period, women in the neighborhood began disappearing. Though no arrests were made, many residents witnessed Anthony harassing women and behaving suspiciously. Despite growing concerns, a prevailing sense of fear and that mind-your-own-business mentality kept many from reporting him. Anthony increasingly isolated himself, cutting off ties and slipping under the community's radar. This marked a dangerous escalation from past offenses and intimidation to horrifying crimes that would soon come to light. On December 8th, 2008, Anthony met 45-year-old Gladys Wade, inviting her in for a drink. Once inside, he punched her. He tried to choke her. He told her he was going to kill her. He restrained her and subjected her to hours of brutal sexual assault, raping her both vaginally and anally. Gladys fought back, eventually breaking free from her restraints and fleeing the house. She immediately reported the assault. So keep in mind, on his record for police at this point is the pregnant lady that he's registered for.
Already a sex offender.
And despite him being a registered sex offender with a violent history, police dropped the rape charges after he claimed the encounter was consensual. With no charges pending, Anthony struck again. In April 2009, he targeted 45-year-old Shirley Avery, a woman he knew casually from the neighborhood. She accepted his offer of a drink, not suspecting danger. Once inside this filthy, cluttered home, Anthony strangled her until she lost consciousness. When she regained awareness, she managed to escape as he briefly loosened his grip. She reported the attack, and the police documented that she was visibly shaken and had bruising and swelling on her face consistent from repeated blows, along with cuts and abrasions, also consistent with a violent struggle. Officers told her she could pursue charges, but like earlier complaints, her case stalled, most likely due to her prior drug convictions, likely influencing how seriously her report was treated. Up next in this horrifying timeline is the 37-year-old LaTundra Billups, the woman I told you about in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
She was the next to visit Anthony's home and under the guise of having a few drinks together on July 28, 2009. While there, he beat her, choked her, raped her, and sodomized her, holding her captive for hours before she managed to escape and reported the assault to police. Her case, like Shirley's, did not result in Anthony's immediate arrest. It's very disturbing to me that there have now been three different women who were severely injured at the hands of Anthony after his rape conviction.
And said who was?
Yeah. And they all tell police who he is. It's not like he's some mystery man. No, they're pointing out his address. They're pointing him out. And that's 3 women after he's been a tier 3 sex offender.
I thought if you're a sex offender and then it's like a similar crime, is it not more severe of an arrest? Or not an arrest, but like, do they not?
You need the police to actually give a shit. They didn't care. And during the same time period, women continued to vanish in the area. On September 22nd, Anthony lured 32-year-old Angela Flowers into his home with the promise of drugs and alcohol, exploiting her struggles with addiction.
I feel like maybe perhaps enough people, since Ohio has a drug problem, that like they disappear pretty regular all over Ohio because people on drugs, that they OD'd somewhere and they'll turn up eventually kind of mentality.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like the overload of things. So somebody going missing, it's kind of like when you started out that like you're immune to it all.
Right. And Angela, the 32-year-old he just lured into his house, she recognized him from the neighborhood and felt safe
Yeah.
to accept his invitation, unaware she was stepping into his trap. Once inside, Anthony's demeanor turned violent. He beat her, leaving visible bruises, and subjected her to several sexual assaults, including rape and sodomy. Angela was restrained and held for several hours while Anthony attempted to intimidate her and control her. When he was momentarily distracted, Angela fought free from her restraints and escaped, running to the neighbors for help. Those neighbors have got to be like, God dang, another one? But she reported the attack to police, joining a growing list of survivors who had identified Anthony as their attacker.
What the fuck?
Right. By this point, it had been 6 months since the first woman came forward. And I'm not talking about the one he went to prison for. Survivors had spoken out, families were pleading for answers, and evidence was mounting. Authorities finally had enough to take decisive action. On October 29th, 2009, armed with a new and comprehensive search warrant, law enforcement returned to Anthony's Imperial Avenue home, not just to investigate, but to finally uncover the horrifying truth. The search was a turning point. Years of scattered reports and unanswered fears now led to a devastating revelation, one that would finally end Anthony's reign of violence. As officers moved through the house, each step revealing another layer of horror, the stench hit them immediately. It was thick, heavy, and impossible to ignore. Neighbors had long blamed the nearby sausage factory, but inside these walls, the source was unmistakable. The officers combed through each room, each closet, and the crawl space, confirming their worst suspicions. 2 decomposing bodies were discovered inside. The scope of his crimes could no longer be denied. News spread quickly. Families who'd waited for years for answers would finally begin to learn the fate of their missing loved ones. And survivors' testimonies gained renewed weight. Justice, for the first time, felt within reach. 2 days later, Anthony was found hiding at an ex-girlfriend's house, and he was arrested without incident. Witnesses described him as calm and detached. It was an unsettling contrast to the horrors uncovered in his home. During questioning in 2009, Anthony gave evasive answers, claiming not to remember certain women or events, and he just stuck with the "it wasn't me" attitude.
It was my stepmom.
Right. And over the next several days, the truth became sickeningly clear. The air carried not the byproduct of spoiled meat, but the lingering presence of the missing.
Yeah.
Hidden in plain sight throughout the property, in the walls, in the basement, and buried in the yard, police found the skeletal remains and decomposing bodies of 11 women.
I would have to move.
Right?
Because I don't, like, just sitting there. I feel bad for the sausage plant, too. Not that I don't feel bad for the victims, but, like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine living somewhere, smelling that, and then realizing you've just been smelling dead people.
Right. Especially if one of those dead people is your loved one that you've been worried about. Forensic examinations revealed an even darker truth. Evidence indicated Anthony had engaged in sexual acts after some of his victims had died.
Ew.
Medical examiners confirmed that certain remains bore signs of post-mortem sexual activity, adding another layer of horror to an already unthinkable case.
You can't see my face right now, but ew.
Basically, they've been decomposing. Their bodies are...
Juicier?
The nut on them is fresher.
Thanks for that.
So, I don't want to diminish the severity of what happened to these women, and I'm going to run through each one of the women who lost their lives inside the Mount Pleasant home and a bit of info on each one of them. So I'm just going to list them because realistically, we have no idea because Anthony doesn't say a thing. He just sticks with the, "it wasn't me."
Who put those there?
And also keep in mind that after LaTundra, the woman the reason I started this case with her is the police went into Anthony's house, right?
Because of her?
Because of her. And then they were like, "Oh, nothing to see here." And they left. So that was in 2009. So when I give you the dates on these women, just understand how appalled I was that these women's bodies were in this house when those officers were also in that house.
Well, I'm confused because I thought like if you get pulled over and they can smell a weed smell,
They're allowed to search.
right? Is it not like the same of if you walk in and there's a clear stench of decay, like maybe investigate it, sniff it out?
It got blamed on the sausage factory.
Oh, yeah.
So
that's why they got out of there. They're like, that place is foul.
And it was filthy too. So up first is Crystal Dozier. She was 39. She was a mother of 7. She enjoyed cooking. She struggled with addiction following the death of one of her children. She lived in an area with high crimes where missing adults were often assumed to have just left, kind of like you said. She'd been in and out of jail, making police less responsive to disappearance reports. So much less responsive that her disappearance was never even actually filed. Police were just like, I'm sure she'll show up. And her family would later criticize the lack of police response.
Yeah.
Crystal was last seen in May of 2007. Her remains were found buried near the fence in Anthony's backyard. She had been strangled to death. Up next is Tishiana Culver. She was 31. She held a cosmetology degree. She trained as a CNA. She was a mother and began using crack after her boyfriend committed suicide. She was last seen in June 2008. She was not reported missing. Her remains were found in Anthony's home. Her cause of death was strangulation. Number 3 is LaShonda Long, age 25. She had a troubled youth. Academically, she was capable, but she had an unstable family situation. She became pregnant at 14. She was a mother of 3 by age 17. She faced economic hardship and unstable housing. She was estranged from much of her family, and her absence wasn't reported. Sadly, she resorted to high-risk behaviors, possibly including sex work, to make ends meet. She was last seen in August 2008. Her cause of death is unknown because she was dismembered, likely to conceal the evidence. Her skull and some of her other remains were found in Anthony's basement, but most of her remains are still missing, which makes me think there could possibly be somewhere else he was burying the bodies.
Yeah.
They ripped this house apart. How do you not have,
Yeah.
like, we're not talking about teeny tiny bones. We're talking arms and legs are still missing.
I wonder if he started shoving them in the walls. I assume those are his more recent victims, because between digging and trying to find somewhere to dispose of them was getting to be too much.
Which is horrifying. Michelle Mason, she was 45. She was living with HIV, which if he raped her, does that mean...
I hope so.
Well, that means all these women that survived, did he expose them to HIV?
Well, I feel like for rape victims, don't they do like...
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, but they do like the, like you're treated for it just to be sure that you don't get it. Kind of like the same thing for like...
medical with the needle stick. I thought it was just they monitor you though.
No, so...
you can still get it.
They're like the antiviral medications. It's the same medication they give people when they have a needle stick injury, that you take it for 30 days to whatever to ensure that even if you came in contact with HIV, this reduces it turning into it in your body.
Gotcha.
So I thought with rape victims, they'll do that as well as like the Plan B thing.
Right. And I think they also do like antibiotics for all kinds of other STDs.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah.
But she was living with HIV. She was a recovering addict. She started to get her life together after being shot. She volunteered with AIDS outreach programs. She was a devoted mother, and she had turned her life around. However, she still frequented neighborhoods like Anthony's. She was last seen in October 2008. She was reported missing. Her cause of death was also strangulation, and her remains were also found in Anthony's house. Number 5 is Tonya Carmichael. She was 52. Some sources say 53. She was a single mother. She worked as a medical secretary. She was taking real estate courses. She enjoyed self-expression, and sadly, she also struggled with addiction and occasionally engaged in sex work. Tonya was willing to enter strangers' homes for drugs or money, and she was known to leave for days at a time. So while her family was worried about her, and they did go to police initially minimized the urgency in looking for her because she would disappear for days and then just show back up. She was last seen in December 2008. Her mother is the one that reported her missing. Her cause of death, also strangulation with a telephone cord. Her body was found buried in Anthony's yard. Also, a side note on Tonya, she had a friend that was also a survivor who didn't want her name to come out, but she was attacked by Anthony and he'd attempted to strangle her. Mm-hmm. Number 6 is Kim Yvette Smith. She was 44. She loved singing. She cared for her wheelchair-bound father. She was working towards sobriety, but still had occasional relapses. She was last seen in January 2009. Family reported her missing in November of 2009, which I thought was heartbreaking because I couldn't imagine one of my kids going missing for 11 months before I report them missing.
Well, like I said, I think it's more of the people who have a tendency to just disappear for a bit and come back.
Right.
So it makes it harder to be like, well, she disappeared this one time before and we didn't hear from her for 6 months and now it's 7 and we're not sure if this is her breaking her own personal record or something actually happened to her this time.
Right. Her cause of death was also strangulation and her remains were found in the backyard. Imelda Amy Hunter, she was 47. She loved books. She became pregnant by her teacher at age 14.
What the fuck?
Yep. She later had another child, one with cerebral palsy. She experienced financial strain and turned to drugs to handle her stress. She worked as a beautician and a home health aide. She was last seen in April 2009. She was not initially reported missing. Her body was found on Anthony's property, and her cause of death was also strangulation.
I can imagine it makes it even harder to identify people who were never reported missing.
Yeah. Well, there's one that I found really sad. It's in Two Ladies from Now, but that was Imelda Hunter. Number 8 is Nancy Cobbs. She's age 43. She was a grandmother of 5. She struggled with addiction, and she lived a couple doors down from Anthony. She was last seen in April of 2009. She was reported missing June 11th, 2009. Her cause of death was strangulation, and her remains were found in the yard as well. Number 9 is Talacia Fortson, and I apologize if I'm saying any of the names wrong. She was 31. Some reports say 33. She was adopted and struggled with abandonment issues. She was a mother of 3, pursuing her high school diploma. She also struggled with substance abuse. She was last seen in June 2009. A missing persons report was filed after police had already discovered her remains. So it was kind of one of those, I think the police reached out to the public and were like, hey, we have a lot of victims. If you have a family member that's missing, please let us know. And then that's when they reported her missing, and then her identification was confirmed. Her cause of death was strangulation, and her body was found inside Anthony's home. Number 10 is Janice Webb. She was 48. Some reports say 49. She was a mother. She loved playing pranks on people. She enjoyed singing. She struggled with a crack addiction and homelessness. She was last seen also in June of 2009. Missing person reports were filed August 2nd, 2009, because she was known for disappearing for days during her drug binges, which led police to dismiss her case initially. Her cause of death was strangulation, and her remains were found at Anthony's house. Last but not least would be Diane Turner. She was 38. She was a mother of 6. She was quiet and non-confrontational. She battled addiction and was considered harmless by loved ones, so harmless that she was known to avoid confrontation, and she kept to herself. So it was noted that it was less likely that she would have fought back because she was so non-confrontational. She was last seen in September 2009. Her disappearance was noted to be close to the time of the police finally issuing that search warrant and going into the house, the final search warrant. Her cause of death was strangulation, and her remains were found on the 3rd floor of Anthony's home. It's important to acknowledge the context in which these tragedies occurred. 10 of the 11 women had documented struggles with addiction, which often placed them in unsafe situations. Many lacked steady income, housing, or reliable transportation. Most of Anthony's victims were Black women living in his neglected Cleveland neighborhood, where missing person reports were not always investigated with urgency. Several of the women were never reported missing at all, giving Anthony a wider window to conceal his crimes. Public outrage grew as the scope of the case became known, and the scrutiny fell on the Cleveland Police Department for missed opportunities to apprehend him sooner. Families of missing women criticized law enforcement for not taking disappearance reports seriously, highlighting a systematic failure in protecting vulnerable populations. Now, during the early weeks of summer 2011, Anthony faced trial on 85 counts, including aggravated murder, kidnapping, rape, and abuse of a corpse. He was found guilty on all counts. By August 2011, the jury recommended the death penalty, and the judge upheld that recommendation through all his appeals.
Good.
A decade later, on February 8th, 2021, Anthony died at the age of 62 while on death row from a terminal illness.
I hope he got HIV.
I hope he had some sort of flesh-eating bacteria that chewed away at his penis and worked its way from there.
It fell off in the toilet.
Yeah.
He was real sad. He can't use his toy no more. What a piece of shit. I hope he was raped a good handful the day he died.
I hope every day, including the day he died.
Way to piggyback off mine, but that's what I'm saying. But up to and including the date of his death, I hope he was taking so many penises to himself.
Well, I think it's disturbing the number of women that were in the house when the police issued that first search warrant.
I think it's alarming that, like, it's not right that because you're struggling in life, you're not missed enough to be acknowledged by authorities.
It's really sad. And there's a lot of children that don't have their parent now.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's like a whole school of children that just don't have their mom.
It's heartbreaking.
And they went years without any sort of what happened to her.
With smelling her remains, because since they all lived in the same neighborhood.
Yeah.
I just found it also ironic that it was called Mount Pleasant.
It is. I'm sure the sausage factory was thrilled for their sake that, see, it wasn't us. Talk about vindication.
Right. I tried to look and see how much money, because between the fines and all the things they paid to do, and it wasn't them.
Yeah. I think that'd be weird anyway, because if they've been there a while, to just say suddenly something they're doing stinks.
Yeah. I don't know which would be worse. Like, can you imagine what that smelled like, what the neighborhood smelled like, between the smell of death because of Anthony and then the smell of bleach?
The sausage, yeah, for
like, you know, that overpowering cleaning.
I'd rather smell bleach than dead bodies.
No, but the smell would be mixed because they're bleaching shit left and right, trying to make sure it doesn't stink.
I'm gonna hope my nose hairs are singed off and my ability to smell anything is pretty ruined, I guess.
But
it's just real awful. I can't believe that happened in the 2000s.
I know. When I found this case, I was like, this seems like it would be in like the 70s. This seems like a 70s case, not...
I wonder if it made it a little bit harder that, let's say that the police were interested in trying to find it when they went missing. I wonder if it made it harder because they did live so close. So like cell towers and stuff, even if they were to go that far, it would still put them somewhere in their own neighborhood.
Right. So
it's not suspicious, or if he didn't live near where they did and their phone showed them right there.
Yeah. I don't know.
I just didn't think that if you show up battered and all that to the hospital saying someone did the choking, that wasn't like, I mean, there's obviously a complainant. Why don't they just go on over there and slap some cuffs on the person who's already been arrested for a similar thing?
Because that person done said, nah, that was consensual.
She liked it.
She asked me to do it. It's disgusting.
They said it was opposite day, and no meant yes.
It was hard to read how many people could have survived if the police had done their job.
If they would have been on top of it.
Yeah, but that's all I've got on Anthony Sowell Jr.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change